No one expected it to vanish. Not a single officer, not a single soldier, and certainly not the terrified townsfolk who watched it disappear into the mountains. In the final, desperate days of World War II, a massive armored train rumbled through the forest of Lower Silesia, its engines burning coal and fear in equal measure. It wasn't just any train. This one was different. This was the Nazi gold train, loaded with stolen treasures from across a continent ravaged by war. Inside its steel wagons lay unimaginable wealth, gold bars from captured banks, crates of diamonds, priceless art taken from museums and families, and secret military documents that could rewrite the history of the war itself. And yet, one night in 1945, this train simply vanished from the face of the earth. Locals still whisper about that night. They talk about the sound, a deep, echoing thunder rolling across the hills. They remember the ground trembling, the smell of smoke, and the strange lights that flickered deep inside the tunnel before it all went silent. Then came the explosion, a blast so powerful that it sealed the entrance forever. From that moment, the train was gone. Some said it had been buried alive, entombed in a secret underground fortress built by the Nazis. Others believed it escaped through a hidden route, a forgotten network of tunnels stretching beneath the Owl Mountains, part of the mysterious Operation Haudegen, a colossal underground project ordered by Hitler himself. But whatever the truth was, one fact remained. The Nazi gold train was never seen again. In the months that followed, Soviet troops swept through the area. They searched every mine, every tunnel, every inch of the forest, but they found nothing. No carriages, no bodies, no gold, only silence. The few locals who dared to speak about it were quickly silenced. Some vanished overnight. Others claimed they were warned to stay quiet, that the mountain was cursed, that something dangerous slept beneath it. Years passed, and the legend began to fade, but it never truly died. Stories of the ghost train continued to circulate through Poland and Germany, told by old men in smoky taverns and written in forgotten newspapers, each version more haunting than the last. Then, decades later, in the summer of 2015, everything changed. Two treasure hunters, armed with ground-penetrating radar, claimed they had finally found it. They said the metallic shadow of a massive train lay hidden deep underground, near the old Ksia's castle, once one of the most secret Nazi command centers in Europe. The world went wild. News agencies from every country arrived. Reporters, scientists, and even government officials descended on the site. For the first time in 70 years, it seemed possible that the legend was real. But what followed was a storm of secrecy, confusion, and fear. Authorities restricted access to the area, and quietly, investigations began to disappear, just like the train itself. As the years turned into decades, the legend of the Nazi gold train refused to fade. In villages scattered across Lower Silesia, old men still told stories of trucks that arrived in the dead of night, of soldiers who vanished without a trace, and of tunnels that led to nowhere. But perhaps the most chilling stories came from those who claimed they had seen the train themselves. One man, a former railway worker named Joseph Kowalski, swore that he watched the train disappear into the forest in the spring of 1945. He described how it was escorted by heavily armed SS guards, silent, ruthless, and terrified. He remembered the strange markings on the wagons, black eagles, red swastikas, and symbols that didn't belong to any known division. And then, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the entire convoy vanished behind a wall of smoke and dust. Joseph said he never saw it emerge again. For years, no one believed him. People called it a ghost story, a drunken tale from a man haunted by the past. But then, others began to speak. A miner who had worked in the nearby tunnels claimed that he'd stumbled upon a sealed passage, reinforced with steel doors and covered in strange inscriptions. He said there were warning signs, the kind used for chemical or radiation hazards, posted along the walls. And at the center of it all, the faint sound of machinery, still running. By the 1970s, local governments had started quietly investigating these claims. Maps from the Nazi era revealed something strange. Large, unrecorded structures hidden beneath the mountains. These were not natural caves. They were man-made, massive, deliberate, and precise. Concrete bunkers, railway lines, ventilation shafts, all leading deep underground. Historians now believe these tunnels were part of Hitler's Operation Haudegen, a secret construction project intended to house weapons, command centers, and perhaps even the remnants of the Third Reich itself. But what if the gold train was more than just treasure? What if it carried something else? Something the Nazis couldn't allow to fall into Allied hands. Some believed it held advanced technology, blueprints for secret aircraft, experimental engines, or weapons that were decades ahead of their time. Others whispered that it carried occult artifacts stolen from ancient monasteries and temples, objects that Himmler and his SS division considered sacred. And then there were the darker theories, that the train carried prisoners, scientists, engineers, or people with knowledge the world wasn't ready for. In the 1990s, treasure hunters began to arrive. They came from Germany, Russia, America, armed with metal detectors, maps, and hope. Some vanished without explanation. Others returned empty-handed, claiming they'd been warned to stop searching. A few swore they had encountered strange men, watching them from a distance, following them through the woods, and sometimes, the legend isn't dead. It's just waiting to be found. Beneath the quiet slopes of the Owl Mountains lies one of the most mysterious construction projects of the entire Second World War, Operation Ries. The word Ries means giant in German, and that's exactly what it was, a giant underground complex, built by the Nazis under absolute secrecy, and at an unimaginable human cost. The project began in late 1943, when Hitler realized the tides of war were turning against him. The Allied bombings were destroying German cities, factories, and communication lines. So, the Führer ordered the creation of underground fortresses, places that could not be bombed, where he and his inner circle could continue the war, or perhaps survive it. The mountains of Lower Silesia were chosen because of their natural hardness, their isolation, and their ability to hide whatever was being built inside. Thousands of forced laborers, mostly prisoners from concentration camps, were brought in to dig the tunnels. They worked day and night, deep underground, using primitive tools and minimal ventilation. The air was thick with dust, explosives, and death. Many never saw daylight again. It's estimated that over 5,000 prisoners died during the construction, their bodies buried in the very tunnels they built. But what exactly was being constructed down there? To this day, no one fully knows. The surviving Nazi documents are vague, filled with code names and missing pages. Some refer to weapons development, others mention headquarters for the Führer. But there's one chilling report that mentions something else entirely: special materials, classified cargo, and energy experiments. Inside the mountains, 6 main complexes have been discovered: Urzechka, Asoka, Wodar's, Sokolik, Jegawais, and Soban. Each one contains miles of tunnels, vast chambers carved into the rock, and reinforced steel structures built with engineering precision. Some chambers are large enough to fit aircraft, trains, or even entire military divisions. Others seem designed for laboratories, with strange layouts and ventilation systems leading to sealed rooms. And then, there are the tunnels that lead nowhere, abruptly ending in walls of solid stone or sealed concrete, as if something lies behind them, something deliberately hidden. After the war, Soviet forces occupied the region and immediately sealed off many of the entrances. Locals reported hearing explosions underground, as if the Soviets were destroying parts of the tunnels. Rumors spread that they had found Nazi documents, gold, and advanced machinery, and that much of it was shipped back to Moscow. But when historians requested access years later, the files were gone, lost, classified, forgotten. Some say Operation Ries was meant to house Hitler's final weapon, an underground research facility for developing Die Glock, the bell, a mysterious Nazi device said to defy gravity and manipulate energy fields. Witnesses from the time described it as a large, metallic bell-shaped object, emitting blue light and intense radiation. Was it a weapon, a power source, or something far more dangerous? We may never know, but if the bell truly existed, then it's very possible it was stored, tested, or hidden within these tunnels. The same tunnels that may also contain the missing Nazi gold train. And yet, despite decades of exploration, the full layout of Operation Ries remains unknown. Ground-penetrating scans suggest there are still undiscovered chambers beneath the mountains, deeper, larger, and sealed with reinforced materials that no modern drill can easily penetrate. Whatever lies behind those walls has remained untouched since 1945. Untouched and waiting. For those who enter these tunnels today, it's like stepping into another world, a silent graveyard of ambition, greed, and terror. The walls still echo with the sound of machinery. Some explorers have claimed to hear faint metallic noises, like engines turning far in the distance. Others have found footprints in the dust, where no one had walked in decades. Could something still be operating beneath the mountains? Could the Nazis have created a secret base that was never truly abandoned? One thing is certain: Operation Ries wasn't just a construction project. It was a symbol of desperation, secrecy, and the dream of a 1,000-year Reich that refused to die. And somewhere in those dark corridors, that dream might still be alive. For more than 7 decades, the Owl Mountains have guarded their secrets. But in recent years, new generations of explorers, scientists, and treasure hunters have returned to these dark hills, determined to uncover the truth that the war tried to bury. And what they've found has raised more questions than answers. It began in the late 1990s when Polish historians stumbled upon old wartime maps. Most were drawn by hand in faded ink, marked with strange German codes. Some referenced free sectors and storage tunnels, others showed dotted lines leading deep beneath the mountains, lines that didn't match any known layout. Curiosity turned into obsession. Soon, groups of researchers and adventurers began to dig, map, and scan. They called themselves the Hunters of Rees. With modern ground-penetrating radar, they detected cavities hundreds of meters below the surface, large voids, geometric in shape. Yet, whenever they tried to reach them, they encountered collapsed tunnels, flooded shafts, or solid walls that seemed artificially sealed. It was as if someone, or something, wanted the secrets below to remain buried. Then came one of the strangest discoveries. In 2015, near the town of Walberze, explorers detected a massive metallic object underground. It measured over 100 meters long, roughly the size of a train. Immediately, the media erupted with headlines. The lost Nazi gold train has been found. For weeks, the world's attention turned to Poland. Excavation teams arrived, equipment was brought in, and global news channels reported live from the scene. But when digging finally began, there was nothing. No train, no gold, only empty tunnels filled with gravel and silence. Some believed the treasure hunters were hoaxers, seeking fame. Others believed they got too close and were stopped. Rumors spread that Polish military officials had quietly intervened, sealing the site again and forbidding further exploration. The official statement said, "No evidence of the train exists," but many on the ground claimed they saw things, metallic reflections under the radar, signs of movement, and even strange interference with their instruments. Was it a cover-up, or was there something else, deeper underground, that no one wanted the world to see? In 2018, a new expedition led by German historian Andreas Richter uncovered fragments of old machinery and steel supports inside the Urzeczka complex. The metal was not typical steel. Tests revealed unusual alloys, with trace elements that didn't exist in common wartime production. Alloys resistant to corrosion, heat, and radiation. Materials far ahead of their time. Who built them? And what were they used for? Then came the testimonies, the stories from locals, old miners, and descendants of wartime workers. Some claimed their grandparents were forced to work underground and saw enormous cylindrical objects being lowered into hidden shafts, guarded by SS troops with orders to shoot on sight. Others spoke of a blinding blue light that filled the tunnels for a moment and then vanished, leaving a humming sound that echoed for minutes. When investigators returned to those locations decades later, they found radiation traces, low, but measurable, enough to suggest something truly strange had once taken place there. Something involving energy, technology, or weaponry far beyond 1940s understanding. Even today, secret projects are rumored to be operating near those same tunnels. Military trucks have been spotted entering the forest at night. Drones that fly too close sometimes lose GPS signal or crash without explanation. Local authorities dismiss it as interference. But for those who live nearby, it's become a silent truth that the mountains are alive with unseen activity. Independent researchers have started using LiDAR scanning from drones to create 3D maps of the area. What they've uncovered so far reveals layers upon layers of underground networks, some known, others completely undocumented. The data suggests the tunnels extend far beyond what was previously thought, possibly connecting to other underground systems across Germany and the Czech Republic. Could this be the legendary Nazi underground network, a system designed for secret transport, hidden laboratories, and evacuation routes? The most haunting part is that no one really knows how deep it goes. Some of these tunnels may reach hundreds of meters below the earth. And every time explorers dig, they encounter strange electromagnetic readings, signals that interfere with compasses and cameras, almost like the mountain itself is resisting. So, what's really under there? A forgotten fortress? A Nazi laboratory? Or the remnants of an experiment that the world was never meant to see? Whatever the truth is, Operation Rees remains an unsolved riddle, one wrapped in silence, stone, and shadow. And as long as the tunnels remain sealed, the questions will only grow louder. Because in those dark depths, where man once tried to rewrite the laws of power, something ancient and restless may still be waiting, watching from beneath the earth. For decades, people have searched the Owl Mountains not just for treasure, but for answers. And yet, after all the digging, scanning, and speculation, one truth remains unshaken: the mountain never gives up its secrets easily. What lies beneath those endless tunnels still defies explanation. But over the years, theories have emerged, each more haunting than the last. The most common theory, of course, is the gold train legend, the idea that a convoy of Nazi officials hid tons of looted gold, priceless art, and rare relics deep inside a secret tunnel before Germany's collapse. According to wartime diaries, that treasure came from all across Europe: gold bars, jewelry, even religious artifacts stolen from churches and museums. When the Red Army advanced, the SS sealed the entrances, detonated charges, and vanished without a trace. Some say the explosives weren't just to hide treasure, but to bury something the world should never find. But then, there's another theory, one far darker. Historians discovered old Nazi documents referencing the giant project, or Project WW2’s. It wasn't meant to be a shelter. It wasn't even meant for storage. According to these files, it was an underground research facility, a place where scientists worked on unconventional energy experiments. Some called it the Nazi Bell Declassified, a mysterious, bell-shaped device said to generate anti-gravity effects, radiation, and even distort time. Witnesses from the 1940s described it as glowing purple, humming with vibration, and surrounded by magnetic fields that warped nearby objects. If true, this could explain the strange alloys found underground, and the faint radiation that remains even now. Then, there are whispers of something even more chilling, that the WW2’s tunnels weren't just an experiment in technology, but in control. Deep within the archives, historians found records of medical trials, psychic research, and strange attempts to tap into what the Nazis called the other dimension. If these stories are to be believed, the project was not abandoned because of defeat. It was sealed because something went wrong, something uncontrollable. Locals still report strange phenomena, flashes of light within sealed shafts, unexplained machinery noises in the dead of night, and eerie echoes that travel miles through the tunnels. Hikers sometimes claim to feel a low vibration underfoot, like a pulse beneath the ground. And every so often, explorers vanish without a trace, their last radio transmissions filled with static and broken whispers. No one knows where they go. Some say they simply got lost. Others think they were taken. Modern scientists have tried to rationalize it, saying the mountains are filled with pockets of magnetite that affect compasses and signals. That collapsing tunnels cause pressure waves and strange sounds. But those who've been inside say otherwise. They describe the air as heavy, almost alive, as if the mountain itself remembers, as if it's listening. And then, there's the most forbidden theory of all, that Operation WW2’s was never fully stopped. That after the war, the Soviets and later NATO quietly took control of these underground networks. That new labs were built on top of old ones. And that beneath the forest of Lower Silesia, experiments still continue, not with gold or weapons, but with the same energy that once frightened even the scientist who created it. An energy source that could change everything, or destroy everything. Satellite images today show sealed metal doors in areas marked as restricted military zones. No civilian is allowed to enter. When asked why, local authorities give no answer. Only silence. The same silence that's kept this mystery alive for 80 years. So, what is the truth about the Owl Mountains? Are they simply a monument to human greed and war? Or a doorway to something far more dangerous? Maybe both. Maybe the treasure wasn't gold, or art, or even weapons. Maybe it was knowledge. Knowledge too powerful, too forbidden, to be released into the world. As the mist drifts through the forest and the tunnels sleep beneath the stone, one thing is certain, the WW2’s complex still breathes. The mountain still hums. And somewhere in those endless shadows, behind the sealed doors and forgotten corridors, the echoes of that secret project remain, waiting for the day when someone is brave, or foolish, enough to wake them again. For nearly 8 decades, the tunnels of WW2’s have remained silent. At least, that's what the official records tell us. But in the last decade, strange events have begun once again in the forest of Lower Silesia, events that have drawn scientists, journalists, and believers from around the world. Something, it seems, has stirred beneath the mountains. It began quietly, with local reports of distant rumbling at night. Villagers heard the ground tremble for several seconds, followed by a deep hum that seemed to echo from underground. Authorities blamed it on minor earthquakes, but seismographs showed nothing. No tremor, no data, no record. The earth, they said, hadn't moved at all. Then came the lights. Hikers described flashes deep within the tree line, pulses of blue and white that lit up the mist for seconds before vanishing. Drone footage captured strange heat signatures in areas long thought to be sealed. And explorers, brave enough to sneak into Forbidden's tunnels, returned pale and silent, refusing to speak of what they saw. Some never returned at all. One researcher, a geophysicist from Krakow University, described a low-frequency signal detected beneath the WW2’s complex. It wasn't natural, he claimed. It repeated every 43 seconds, steady and precise, like the rhythm of a heartbeat. At first, his colleagues dismissed it as faulty equipment, until other teams from Germany and the Czech Republic recorded the same pattern, same pulse, same timing, coming from deep beneath the Owl Mountains. What could produce such a signal? A remnant of wartime machinery, an underground river striking metal, or something else entirely? No one could say for certain. But when the Polish government quietly restricted access to several nearby sites, the rumors began again that the vanishing army hadn't disappeared, that it had been buried alive. And maybe, just maybe, something inside had survived. A chilling discovery came next. In 2019, a team of historians unearthed a sealed steel crate hidden in a collapsed section near the Wallam Tunnel. Inside were fragments of film reels, some marked with the code RZ43. Most of the footage was destroyed, but one frame remained intact, showing a large cylindrical device suspended by thick cables, surrounded by men in SS uniforms wearing protective suits. The device appeared to glow faintly, and beside it, on a chalkboard, a single word could be read in German, Erwachen. The Awakening. When news of the discovery spread online, it was quickly taken down. The crate was confiscated, the location sealed once more. And yet, whispers persisted that copies of the footage had been leaked to private researchers. None have ever surfaced publicly, but some claim fragments still circulate on the dark web only for those who know where to look. Since then, military activity around the area has increased. Helicopters patrol at night, sensors have been installed on the mountain ridges, and strange vehicles, unmarked and silent, are often seen entering through temporary structures disguised as forestry tents. Officially, it's all part of environmental monitoring. Unofficially, no one believes that. Local legends now speak of an awakening, that something long buried is slowly reactivating beneath the earth. Some say it's machinery, others believe it's energy, and a few, the most fearful, whisper that it's conscious, that the mountain itself is alive, aware, and remembering what was once done to it. But here's the most chilling part. Sound engineers studying the tunnel echoes recently discovered that the vibrations form distinct patterns, almost like a frequency code. When played through special software, the waves form shapes, repeating, symmetrical, complex, not random, not natural, almost like a message pulsing from the heart of the mountain over and over again, waiting for someone, somewhere, to answer. Maybe the WW2 project never ended. Maybe it evolved, hidden beneath layers of time, secrecy, and stone. And as the world above grows more connected, more digital, perhaps something ancient, mechanical, and intelligent has finally found a way to reach out. So the next time you stand among the ruins, feel the air shift, and hear that faint hum beneath your feet, remember this. Not all mysteries sleep forever. Some are simply waiting for the signal to return. For years, the strange pulse beneath the Owl Mountains was dismissed as myth, a curiosity for ghost hunters and amateur researchers. But then, in the summer of 2024, something changed. The pulse returned, and this time, it wasn't faint, it was global. It began on a quiet night in June. Monitoring stations across Europe detected an unknown frequency, low, rhythmic, and repeating every 43 seconds. The same pattern that once came from the WW2 tunnels. Within hours, similar signals appeared in Canada, Japan, and South America. The world's scientists couldn't explain it, but the waveforms were identical, as if they all originated from one source, deep beneath the Earth's crust. At first, governments stayed silent, but leaked satellite data revealed that the strongest emissions were centered directly under the Sudets Range, the same location as the abandoned Nazi complex. Then, without warning, access to all nearby research sites was locked down, entire valleys sealed off, and locals, told to stay indoors at night. Those who lived near the old tunnels began to report strange phenomena: lights flickering without power, animals fleeing into the forests, and an unsettling vibration that could be felt in the bones rather than heard in the ears. Some described it as the feeling of being watched by the mountain itself. The scientific community grew divided. Some believed it was a natural geomagnetic resonance. Others whispered that the WW2 project had been far more advanced than history books admitted, an experiment with energy fields that could still echo after all these years. And a few suggested that it wasn't human technology at all. Then came the breakthrough, or the disaster, depending on how you see it. A private research team in Prague, analyzing the pulse through advanced AI systems, discovered an anomaly in the frequency. Hidden within the waveform was data, binary patterns, code. When translated, it formed a string of coordinates, all leading back to the same spot in Lower Silesia. And beneath the coordinates, one single German word appeared: ist watch. He is awake. Panic spread quietly among those who saw the data, not because of what it said, but because the signal had changed. The pattern that had once repeated every 43 seconds now shifted slightly each day, as though responding to something or someone. By mid-July, seismic monitors across Europe recorded deep, rhythmic tremors beneath the mountains, not random, but synchronized, like the steady beat of an enormous mechanical heart. And at exactly midnight, local time, the pulse would always stop. Then a single tone, sharp and high, would echo through the valley, and disappear again until morning. When the United Nations Scientific Committee finally addressed the event, their statement was vague and brief: unexplained subterranean resonance under investigation. But the real fear was not the sound itself. It was what might come next. Because deep inside the sealed chambers of Rees, where air hasn't moved in decades, motion sensors recently reactivated. Power readings spiked, and somewhere inside those tunnels, far beneath the rock and rust, something began to hum again. Low, constant, as if remembering a rhythm it once knew. Satellite images later revealed faint traces of heat under one of the oldest entrances, long thought collapsed. Whatever was buried there was no longer asleep, and the pattern, once thought meaningless, started aligning with star positions, tracking something in the sky, as though the mountain was watching, waiting. Experts now fear that the signal might not just be an echo, but a transmission, not from Earth, but from beneath it. A pulse meant to awaken, to connect, to complete something that was started nearly 80 years ago. And so, as night falls over the Owl Mountains, the question remains: what did the Nazis build that could still be alive today? What power lies beneath those stones, pulsing like a heartbeat from the Earth itself? And if this signal truly has returned, who, or what, has answered it?